Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Phil, Fantasy Authors Handbook. The December 2024 book haul video starts up already. Just posted November, but it worked last month where I just sort of, did a clip as books came in rather than waiting to the end. Okay, so December is a tough one because I am under a deadline crunch like I don't think I've ever been crunched before. This is crunch time. I'm in crunch time. I'm crunching it. There's nothing to do for it but to crunch, which is good. But if you're any kind of a freelancer and you're like, oh my God, I have so much work, that's spectacular. I'm not complaining. I'm happy to do it, but I got to do it anyway. So I didn't take any notes. I didn't do any research on these books at all. And I know that you expect some level of scholarship from me, but this one we're going off the cuff because I bought these books off the cuff. So this is Phil's December. It was December 5th that I actually bought these at the library. I won't go through the whole library thing. You got to go to the library. You got to support your library. My library always has books for sale at the front to benefit the friends of the library. I benefit them as much as I possibly can anytime I find stuff. Paperbacks are $1. So what you are about to see here are 7 books. Is that correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 books for $7. Okay. Right? In no particular order at all, let's start with this one, which is Chance by Joseph Conrad. In the handsome, very handsome Penguin 20th Century Classics. Right? There's the back. And this one has the U.S. and Canadian prices on here, so this isn't some kind of import, but it still is in that, the love of the UK A format paperback. I have several books by Joseph Conrad. Obviously, I know who he is and stuff like that, but have not actually read anything yet by Joseph Conrad. But I saw this, and I don't know, right? It's a very handsome little book. And on the back, it's crazy. I'm going to read this. This is no potent. I never read the back of books really like this, but it says, when published in 1913, Chance was an immediate success. Congratulations. Arnold Bennett wrote that this is a discouraging book for a writer because he damn well knows he can't write as well as this. Oh, okay. Challenge maybe accepted? I don't know. Well, an anonymous reviewer in Punch declared that the whole thing is much nearer wizardry than workmanship. Kind of hard to pass up a book by an author that is very significant. And they talk about it like that. Chance by Joseph Conrad. Because you watched my video where I looked, and you joined me in the look at Existentialism and Human Emotions by Jean-Paul Sartre, that I dug it. I was into it. I understood it. I got something from it. I saw this just sitting there for $1. Troubled Sleep, a novel, right? This is set against the backdrop of the Nazi occupation and invasion of France and occupation of Paris. So, right? There's a lot of story to be told there, no doubt. Oh no, is there a page that's ripped? Oh, look at this. It's all happening in the moment. The page is not ripped. The page is, can we see it happening? There's a small problem. It just got folded. It's okay. It got a little boo-boo there, and we're going to straighten that out. And then that's going to sit on a shelf or somewhere where it'll all be good. It'll all be fine. It'll be fine in the end. It'll be fine. Everything will be fine. And hey, listen, Paris, it was rough, but you got through it. Yes, World War II. Hilarious. Jean-Paul Sartre, Troubled Sleep. Looking forward to reading that. My entire life I have heard people refer to the Horatio Alger story. You've heard of the Horatio Alger story, yeah? That's the story of sort of, the kind of street urchin kid all of a sudden finds a way to become a big rich guy and a huge success. Apparently, he wrote a whole ton of those. But I've never read anything by Horatio Alger ever. And I found this, and it was just too groovy to pass up in this very retro Collier Books edition paperback. Ragged Dick and Mark the Match Boy, 2 novels by Horatio Alger. This thing, like very groovy book that is. I love Collier Books. They have it's like they use more glue on the spine somehow. They're just these like weirdly rigid, maybe not super easy to read because they're going right into that gutter and it's very tight. And I'm not breaking the spine on this because I don't do that because I'm not a barbarian. Ragged Dick and Mark the Match Boy, and even on the back cover copy, it refers to that, right? The Horatio Alger story. And apparently he wrote like there's tons and tons of these. But these are the first 2, right? Or anyway, Ragged Dick is the first one. How can you live your entire life just understanding the kind of, that sort of cliche that people say, like, oh, it's like a Horatio Alger story, and then not eventually read a Horatio Alger story? So I will. There's 2 of them in one volume. Terrific. This was just there. It is the first unabridged U.S. publication of Wasp by Eric Frank Russell, who is pretty well represented in my Ace Doubles collection. Just grabbed it. I don't know, right? This is a Del Rey book. It's old for many of my viewers here, but not old for this gentleman of generous years. This is the first Ballantine Books edition from February 1986 of a story that was originally written in 1957. Who says I don't do research? I'm looking at the book right now. Research. This has an introduction by Jack Chalker for some reason. Okay. But that's a fun, right? It goes into the giant stacks of random paperbacks. Wasp by Eric Frank Russell. Next up, it's interruptions, it's problems, it's deadline problems. It's just, you don't know my struggle. You don't know my struggle. It's not really a struggle. It's not the worst struggle in the world. I'm all right. There's no GoFundMe pitch at the end of this. We'll be all right. I just said I have like more work than I feel like I can do. I'm going to be all right. Anyway, it's James Joyce, another author I have not ever read. Now, it's one of those things where all you ever hear about is Ulysses. And it's like, oh, it's this impossible book that was written to be impossible. And at which point you kind of go like, if it's just written to be hard to read, what's the point of that? I don't know. We're not going to get into a whole discussion of Ulysses, a book I haven't read, but Dubliners, it is my understanding, and this is a nice UK A format. Love it. Penguin edition from Howard. Somebody needs to be careful. Oh, straighten that little corner out. The cover is kind of not attractive, but there he is, the man himself on the cover. It's the remarkable collection of stories that make up Dubliners was described by Joyce himself as a series of chapters in the moral history of his community. Obviously a book that has been talked about, been being read for a very long time. This particular copy is the 20th printing. This is crazy. And from quite some time ago, published in Penguin Books 1976. It's the 20th printing, so who knows where this is from, right? Early 80s, maybe late 70s. The Dubliners by James Joyce will go in the giant random pack, stacks of books, and if and when chosen at random, I shall indeed read it. 2 more. Why not this? Why not this? I paid $1 for it, even though there is a price tag on here that says 73 cents, because that's what I do. I support my local library. Jane Ellen Harrison, illustrated edition, it says, and there are indeed a few illustrations in here, not lots. It's this one, The Mountain Mother. Ooh. You know, you do not mess with the Mountain Mother. You do not. Even Aphrodite and Erotis. Terrific. Anyway, it's just a really very short, and you can see, right, pretty big type. This is not a mammoth read. But apparently she's a brilliant scholar who has been ranked with Sir James Fraser. Well, alrighty then. Okay, so she then shows how the mythology of the Greeks, the most gifted people the world has ever seen. You're welcome. Enshrine the gods in a matchless imagery that has haunted the minds of poets and artists down to the present day. So listen, as one of the most gifted people the world has ever seen, this will go on my bookshelf. John Gardner. I've heard about this book too. Why have I not read this? On Becoming a Novelist, right, with a foreword by Raymond Carver. I'm a Raymond Carver fan. This book looks like it's been through some stuff, you know. There seems to be a lot of like weird fading going on here. Look like it's kind of stuck out of a shelf there. There might have been some cigarette smoking going on. I don't know. I'm always looking for ephemera and things stuck in a book, and here was one that I found. Not unusual to find in the Seattle area, a bookmark from the Elliott Bay Book Company. Great independent bookstore in the city of Seattle. Haven't been there in ages, and I need to go back. This apparently is just How to Become a Novelist. Contains the wisdom accumulated during John Gardner's distinguished 20-year career as a fiction writer and creative writing teacher. With elegance, humor, and sophistication, Gardner describes the life of a working novelist, warns what needs to be guarded against, both from within the writer and from without, and predicts what the writer can reasonably expect and what, in general, he or she cannot. We'll be interested to see how this holds up, because publishing really hasn't changed fundamentally in like 90 years, but it has changed some. And it has changed some in the last, really, we'll say 22 years-ish, 26, 25. Copyright 1983 by the estate of John Gardner. This is the fifth printing, doesn't matter. It's dedicated to all of his students. I would not be surprised if in the relatively near future this doesn't show up as one of our Fantasy Authors Handbook Goodreads group reads. Maybe, maybe not. Have you read this? Interesting. And this is I see something about here. It's about writing and how to write, and especially how to write fiction. And it's just done right. I mean, I'm always looking for those, and I'm always reading some. You just saw a video where I looked at How Novels Work by John Mullen. That was our group read from November. It's December. What is today? Today is December 6th. I don't even know. It is December 6th. I'm looking. I told you there's deadline. There's crunch. It's crunch time. I'm crunching. I got to go crunch. This was books purchased at the library book sale on December 5th. What's next in December? Who knows? I don't know. I got to get back to work. And I'm back. December 7th, one book received from Amazon, Poetry Comics by Grant Snider. So first of all, never let anyone tell you, although it may seem like this, right, that social media does not sell books. That by putting stuff up on your social media that says, hey, I wrote this book, here's the link and go get it, doesn't work. Nobody buys books that way. Well, I did. I follow him on Substack, seen his stuff on Blue Sky as well. These amazing comics. This is Poetry Comics, Words and Pictures by Grant Snider. And they're just these delightful things, I don't know, that I see on Substack, right? For sure. Also on Blue Sky. And I'm like, these are great. And then, like, why am I not buying that book? What am I not buying the book for? I'm enjoying them for free online, or, bits and pieces of them and stuff like that. One here, one there. And every time I'm like, these are great. There's Summer's End. December 7th, I'm talking to you, so that I would love to read something about summer, right? Look at this 2-page spread for Late Bus. I'm not going to show these, or too much. I guess you could freeze frame and read these if you really wanted to, but very tight little thin book. Looks like a children's book. It's not. I mean, I don't think you could. You would have to be like in a panic if your kids got a hold of it. That's for sure. Why not, right? It's not like there's nothing about this that reads like R-rated or anything like that. Yeah. So this is just terrific. Grant Snyder, Poetry Comics, a USA Today bestseller. I mean, just beautifully done with the 3-part case material here. You can kind of hear how that's textured. Embossed cover. Beautifully printed. Really, really nicely done by who? Oh, Chronicle Books, right? They're fantastic. Poetry Comics by Grant Snyder from Chronicle Books came to me or came to my attention via social media. Substack and Blue Sky, it works. Get out there. Be comfortable with your own social media presence. Don't let anybody, even, including me, make a decision for you, force you into some place that feels toxic, like X or Facebook or someplace like that. You know what I mean? But, right, seen on social media, loved the snippets, bought the book, December 7th, the low of the month is young still. We'll have more, I'm sure. And then we come to December 12th, a huge book haul day this month of December 2024. I had to take my son to the dentist. He was in there for 2 hours. It was close to the half price books that I go to, so I went to the half price books that I go to. And I bought kind of all of this stuff. Ready? This is another one. Didn't do like exhaustive research and all that kind of stuff. This was just bought stuff. We're going to take a look at them pretty much fresh. Found a bunch of stuff, a few things that were on my list. I have the list on my phone of stuff that I'm looking for. I've been mentioned. I'm trying to complete series and things like that. But they also have these spinner racks of clearance science fiction and fantasy. So this trip, I just kind of poured through that and was like, so here are a bunch of mass market paperbacks that will go onto the giant, behind me, giant paperback TBR stacks that you've seen in the past. There's whole videos about that. Anyway, this one ended up being on my list, and there it was. The Mind Behind the Eye. Yes, by Joseph Green. Handsome in Daw, with the yellow spine still intact. And how about this? Look at that one. So for those of you who are like Daw collectors or thinking about collecting Daw, is this going to, let me put it in front of my face so maybe it's not going to focus. Let's get on with it. It's number 2. That doesn't mean anything really, I guess, unless you're trying to collect all the old Daw books in numerical order. Look at that interior frontispiece illustration there. Guy in the super cool little like airplane. Dynamite. Heard a lot of great things about this book. This was on my Amazon wish list. This was something that I thought, that sounds fascinating. I need that. This is might be no, this was originally published by Gollancz in the UK as Gold the Man. So this is the first US printing, right? 71? Am I reading that right? 1971? And the cover artist, Josh Kirby, The Mind Behind the Eye by Joseph Green. And there was another one by Joseph Green, and I thought, well, why not? Slightly more faded daw yellow spine there. This one much later, 131. Conscience, Interplanetary. Another like great groovy cover with the little kind of cute little alien thing that the blue man is holding on to. A new concept of alien intelligences by the author of The Mind Behind the Eye. Dynamite. These great DAW books with these frontispiece illustrations that are just super cool, right? DAW Books Incorporated. 1974. Kelly Frias did the cover. I'll buy that. This is the first printing. Kelly Frias cover. Conscience Interplanetary. Aliens who are cute and fuzzy. Isn't that lovely? This one I just ran across, right? Because these are just racks of what they're trying to get rid of. What a handsome book this is. Yeah, Peter S. Beagle. A Fine and Private Place with a very nice wrap cover. Yes, really beautifully rendered here. Doesn't necessarily immediately read as fantasy, but I am to believe that it is. That's a very handsome book from Ballantine. This is 1960 copyright. It was originally published in hardcover by Viking. This is the February 1969 first Ballantine paperback edition, Peter S. Beagle. And I love books like this, right? Nothing on the cover, just sort of, obviously I've heard of the author. I stood behind him in line checking into a hotel in Anaheim, California for the World Science Fiction Convention tons of years ago. Seemed like a nice enough chap. About way past time I've read some Peter S. Beagle, so there's that. We're back. Okay. Another one that was on my list here, because I've been hearing about it for literally decades, right? Really a children's novel, A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. I just have been hearing about it more and more again. Like, hey, are we rediscovering this book? Should we be reading this book? There's no reason for me to be snobby and say, oh, this is a book intended for younger readers, and so therefore I'm too old to read it or whatever. It sounds, everything I've heard is just it's one of the great fantasy novels of all time, regardless of the age category in which it was aimed. This is a really terrific Laurel Leaf fantasy from Dell edition. This is an edition that looks like it had been out there for a long time, because this is, here you can see, I managed to score the 51st printing. So this is obviously something that was always in the school library and so on for just ages and ages and ages. Copyright 1962, so it's 2 years older than me. A Wrinkle in Time, no reason not to have this on the giant stack of stuff. Another one that just jumped out at me, how about this one? This is Edward E. Docksmith, E.E. Docksmith, sort of the inventor of the space opera, really, right? In that old pulp sense of space action adventure stories. This is Subspace Explorers. I have never heard of it. I believe this is his last book. Yes, Subspace Explorers is the last great novel by Docksmith, author of the famous Skylark and Lensman series. What about this would ever lead me to pass on it, right? The great kind of, like, it's an airplane or kind of fighter ship up there. Amazing astronaut kind of war things happening. The Boston Herald believed that it to be absorbing, provocative, and highly imaginative. Everything I'm looking for in anything. And then, I love old books. I don't suffer over condition as long as they're intact and readable. I'm in because I buy books to read, not necessarily to archive. So I'm always looking for and happy to see that, a reasonable amount of notes and things written in stuff. I love finding little old bookmarks and receipts and stuff that are stuck in. What do we make of this? What are these numbers? They're not phone numbers, right? The heck is that? So somebody just have, previous owner just had this sitting next to them in a red pen, and they're like, oh, I got to write down the MP, NP, OP, PP, OP, and RP numbers. Whatever those are. I don't have any idea what that is. But there it is. And it lives on, right? With, again, another great frontispiece illustration that kind of looks like maybe that was taken from like a previous, like older pulp magazine or something. This is telling me copyright 1965 by Edward E. Smith, by arrangement with Canaveral Press, cover by John Schoner, and this frontispiece by Roy G. Krenkel. Outstanding. Subspace Explorers. And it's got everything. It's got a thing in the, written in the front. It's got the great frontispiece illustration. It's got the fold-out ad for the Science Fiction Book Club. Just love it. Dynamite. Ace, Science Fiction, E.E. Doc Smith. Amazing. Goes in the pile. This one, because I've been hearing a lot about this author, Bob Shaw, and I have some of his books and have written his name down as look for more stuff by Bob Shaw. This one jumped out as Vertigo. I love the cover. It really just looks like this guy's in big trouble. Like he's bailed out really high up. Probably too high up to just have the oxygen mask on and not a full helmet. But I guess we'll have to read the story to see how that works out. Also from Ace, 1979, by arrangement with Victor Gollancz Limited. So originally in the UK. This was the first Ace printing in February 1979. I'm not making that up. Cover art by Bob Adranya. I'm guessing at that pronunciation. I'm throwing that out there. Vertigo by Bob Shaw. This is a story of an air patrolman who obviously got into big trouble. Look at that. Excited for that to just come up at random. This one was crazy. How do I not buy this, right? First of all, just the title, The Bite of Monsters. And then I saw the author's name, and it was Dennis O'Neil. Dennis O'Neil. Never read anything by Dennis O'Neil. This is a Belmont science fiction original. Kind of one of those lesser presses. The book has got some condition issues. It definitely met liquids, right? This is water damage that goes through the whole thing. You can see where it's stained there, and it's kind of crinkly on top. But again, it's intact. It has really a texture to it, a shape to it. But again, intact and readable. And yes, indeed, Dennis O'Neil, in case you're starting to think, could it be, is actually Denny O'Neil, the great and really one of the greatest of all time comic book writers, right? Worked for DC and Marvel. He was one of those guys responsible in the 70s for bringing comic books kind of out of the, well, it's like Kid, kind of, Batman and Robin slip on a banana peel kind of thing, to, right, confronting current events and real world issues, right? Denny O'Neil, an extremely important figure in American comics. Here he has written a novel. I'm just 100% in on that. All in. And then he reaches down on the floor where the bag is. So I am a Bertram Chandler fan, and why wouldn't I be? This is Daw from that period where they ditched the yellow. This is one of the John Grimes books. I believe this is the 14th. And I'm kind of low-key collecting these, right? It's not a priority. I'm I haven't started reading it. But when I see them, I get them. So I saw this. This looks cool. I mean, what, right? This is just so typical of the era fantasy art, even though this is a science fiction novel. but it was obviously also of the period where, hey, if you're writing science fiction, you could make twice as much money if it just looks like there's fantasy on the cover, so put a dragon on it. Or the woman in hopelessly ineffective armor. I think she's fine, right? As long as she isn't worried about somebody stabbing her someplace. It's no big deal like in her heart or her liver or any of her other abdominal organs or her neck. Otherwise, in the sword fight, she should be more or less fine. This is the first printing from 1984. The first printing as well. So, John Grimes, right, very much a science fiction hero versus very much fantasy-looking Amazon, the last Amazon. Could there really be a last Amazon? They will live forever. Just to trigger my, the guy over at Pulp Mortem, who just has he has an issue with the Pyramid Books design, right? Their trade dress. I'm less concerned with that. Art here it's fun. It's not, that sort of photorealistic thing that we maybe have come to know and love. And on the back is for an E. Doc Smith book. This is The Fury from Earth by Dean McLaughlin. I do not believe I have ever read anything by Dean McLaughlin, but I will, because now I have this first printing from October 1963. I'm not wearing my reading glasses, which is why I'm kind of like, what is he doing with his eyes? He's trying to see. Flight time 0 is what it says on the back. This is set in 2154 AD, so anything can happen. No idea what that world is going to look like. Last of the paperbacks here is Tiger by the Tail by Ellen E. Nurse. I have been led to believe it was pronounced Nurse and not Norse. Man's passion for challenge takes him to the hottest place in the solar system and certain death. This is actually it is the complete text of the hardcover edition of a collection of short stories, right? This is the second printing from January 1968. There's the table of contents if you want to go through that. So just a collection of short stories by an author that I have a bunch of his books in the giant stack there, and I believe he's represented in the Ace Double collection as well. One of those just working mid-list sci-fi authors from back in the days of my babyhood. Tiger by the Tail and Other Tales by Ellen E. Nurse. Those were the mass market paperbacks. Those are the ones that go, you could hear that as I'm like pushing them and making the stack nice and neat. Those are going to go in the random piles, except for the the A. Bertram Chandler book that will go in with the rest of those. To be read at random. I really do read books at random. I don't have it near me. The book that I'm currently reading at random. Whatever. Also on my list, Make Room by Harry Harrison. How is it possible, being a young Soylent Green fan a little kid watching that movie on TV, just like, this is so cool, and this is the world that's going to be like in the future when I'm Charlton Heston's age. And it was not completely wrong, but it was a little wrong. Thankfully, we weren't eating people. Spoiler alert. I have never read the book. And it seemed like when I was looking for it out there, it's like I can't find it. But here it just appeared on the shelf in this, feels like print on demand, but isn't, Tor book from their Orb kind of sub imprint or Orb line. And when did this come to us? It doesn't really say. I do not know. 2008 edition, right? Original copyrights were 1966 and 1973. So, right, the population explosion, which was what we were worried about back then. And also massive climate change, which we are worried about right now, lead to massive food shortages and some pretty terrible goings on. Where do I put this? Right there. Harry Harrison, an author I've been meaning to and been buying books and really want to start reading more of. And this is this the novel that he is most famous for? Maybe because of the movie Soylent Green. All right, next up, another book that was on my list, and actually I believe it was mentioned in this book, How Novels Work by John Mullen, which was our November Fantasy Authors Handbook Goodreads group read. And, you know, here there's a whole video where I look at this. Yes, and there it is, right? You can't really see, it doesn't matter. And so I thought, oh, you know, I should put some of these books on my list. We talked about the secret history that I got and so on. Another one just popped up in the clearance section. Those mass market paperbacks we looked at, by the way, that I'm tapping, it's audio feedback. Paid no more than $3 for each one of those. Some of them were $1, a couple were $2. This was $3 in hardcover. Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee. Is that how you say that last name? I do not know. This is his definitive statement on modern South Africa. Terrific. There's the gentleman himself there. This is the Viking hardcover edition that someone had one of those groovy, I won't show the name, right, but had one of those groovy stamps that would identify this as coming from that person's library. This is the first printing, 1999. I honestly don't know anything about this other than little bits that I sort of read in How Novels Work, but I don't know, it just sounds interesting. And again, an author that I've been hearing about for a very long time. This is the winner of the 1999 Booker Prize. You know, I mean, it can't be all bad, right? Disgrace. And then this one I just found, and it immediately jumped out because it was such an attractive book. Mandala by Pearl S. Buck, who I've read before and really, really liked, right? This is a novel of India. It's a book club edition, but beautiful in just yellow on yellow, right? With the dust jacket intact, which you don't always see on these book club editions or just books that are of a certain age. But I found this also fascinating too, right? Remember, condition issues for me, not an issue. I like to see books that have existed in the world. But you can clearly see that there was another book on the shelf next to this for what may have been years, right? And they sat together like that, and the sun bleached this yellow ink out. And then finally, whatever happened, I had to clear out all these old books. I'm going to bring these over to the used bookstore, and then the difference, right? The sun does this to that. Fascinating. That's not the reason I bought the book, but again, that's just something that I found fascinating. There's something about that yellow. We talked about this with the Daw yellow spines. There's something about that yellow ink that just does not like sunlight, and it just gets bleached right out. Anyway, this is 1970 by the Pearl S. Buck Foundation. John Day, printed in the United States of America. Again, this is the book club edition. I don't know. And always with this kind of, right, literature written, set in a place. Certainly a place that has a history like India has. And coming from that period of time, how like colonialist is this going to come across? I don't know. I haven't read it yet, right? But again, I have read Pearl S. Buck before, and she's just an author that I'm prepared to read again for sure. Happily prepared to read again. And then when you find just this beautiful book for, I want to say that was $2. What? Of course you buy that. So that was my trip to Half Price Books on December 12th of 2024. But is that all? I'm sure you're thinking, but Phil, that there can't be more. There can't be more. And yet there is. So I'm not celebrating Christmas. That's a whole other thing. It doesn't matter. But I am taking advantage of all of the big discounts at Amazon, which I found some books that were like steeply discounted. And here's a couple that I just was like, nah, I'm just going to get it. Another one from Sci-Fi Scavenger. I keep talking about him as somebody that I keep watching, and I watch all of his videos and find books there that I think, oh, that looks really interesting, right? This one he just held up very recently on a video. Katie, right? By David Hutchinson. This is the Tor.com novella series that they do, right? Very short books. You know, there's the print is not very densely packed. It's all of, where are we? 103 text pages. So a novella, obviously, space sci-fi. I don't know, the way he was describing it, I just thought, well, that sounds right. The colony left Earth to find utopia, a home on a new planet where their leader could fully explore their genetic potential, unfettered by their homeworld's restrictions. Okay, I mean, right? Very classic sci-fi setup. Katie, by Dave Hutchinson. It is mine now. And because I just love to just grab a book like this that's so short and just dive in and read it and enjoy. And I've enjoyed a bunch of other books from Tor.com from this novella series that they do. That have been really, really good. Another one that I know the Sci-Fi Scavenger has talked about, and so a bunch of other science fiction fans and booktubers have been talking about Adrian Tchaikovsky for a long time. This is Children of Time. Every description of it I hear is, well, that's exactly the kind of thing that I love. Why have I not read any Adrian Tchaikovsky? I feel like I absolutely should have. It's the winner of the Arthur C. Clarke Award, so says the cover. This is another one, came from Amazon at a nice discount, brand new. So Mr. Tchaikovsky gets that full royalty, which is always nice. Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I don't know, if you haven't heard a million other booktubers talk about it, then I don't know what else to tell you, because I haven't read it yet. But it, from what I understand, is kind of science fiction horror. And what could possibly be bad about that? It's a chunk, though. Look at that. Oof. Oh, I can hardly lift it. Over 500 pages, which kind of makes it a long read for me. But then, looking at the pages, they seem to be kind of letting it be readable and not worrying about the page count, which I appreciate. So anyway, I'm looking forward to reading it because I've just heard too many people say too many good things about it. And not even just like, this is the best book and you have to read it, but just describing what the book is about and all that kind of stuff. It just feels like, why haven't I read that yet? Last but not least, for the 12th, if you have been paying attention to me on social media, you will have seen me talk about this, and actually on the blog, right? A video, a Big Think video featuring Yuval Noah Harari. This is Nexus. What he said on that video I just found so fascinating. Please go to the blog. Please follow the link to that. Please watch that video. It's over an hour long, but it is worth it. And this is just something that it touches on a lot of stuff that I'm really concerned with now, right? This is brand new hardcover. Weirdly, case material is way too big. I don't know if this was just, they had some kind of trim issue. The pages look intact. I don't know. But it is bound a little bit weird, coming from our friends at Random House. On the back it says, stories brought us together. Books spread our ideas and our mythologies. The internet promised infinite knowledge. The algorithm learned our secrets and then turned us against one another. What will AI do? This is something I'm actually thinking a lot about. Nexus is the thrilling account of how we arrived at this moment and the urgent choices we must now make to survive and to thrive. I'm not a doom and gloom guy, right? I don't think that the world is coming to an end. Every generation has thought that it is. almost every generation has been convinced that the world has never been worse than it is right now. We've never been closer to the brink of total destruction. We've got some big problems, for sure, but they're human problems. And to me, what he was saying just sounded really fascinating, because it isn't, this is all bad and needs to be stopped and we all need to do what, right? I don't know. Do a march on Washington, which, trillion-dollar tech companies are just not interested in. Oh, there were people picketing the other day. Like, what are people? What? Who? What? So, just trying to kind of wrap my brain around this in a thought out, right, considered way, not social media panic, which is what he was really talking about in that video. It's like, we're just not getting good information from good sources, and there are apparently cultural and historical reasons for that. I don't know. Now I'm talking about a book that I haven't read in terms of the content, but this is Nexus by Yuval Noah Harari. I am really excited to do this. Is going to be on the much sooner to be read list. And that was December 12th. Big day for books. The budget was maybe a little bit, it wasn't broken. The budget was stretched a smidge. So we'll see how many days it is before we get any more books bought in December. Could this be the last one? It's only the 12th. Well, I'm actually recording this on the 13th, and no more books are on their way here. But you never know. You never know. And a dark book for a dark day. Recording this on December 21st, the winter solstice. Gloomy day of 8 hours of, let's call it, daylight here in the Pacific Northwest. So a dark book for a dark day arrived yesterday, kind of later in the evening, December 20th. It's Edidorpa by John Uri Lloyd. This is the extended edition from Nighttime Editions from 2019. Very strange book that I've heard, about for a long time. Very oddball thing. Is it like an early proto-science fiction novel? This was originally published in 1895. It was updated in 1901. I'm kind of reading this from the back, because there's a lot about this that I don't know. The art is beautiful and creepy and weird, yeah. But this edition, clearly kind of put together on a print-on-demand thing, but, that's fine. Includes the illustrations, apparently, that were part of the original publication of the book, and they're definitely of a time period, right? That kind of late 19th century, very, very early 20th century thing. But they're really, I think, really fascinating. The book is nicely put together. So what is this thing? Is it early science fiction? Is it then fantasy too, kind of a horror story? Is it all of those things combined, which is perfectly fine by me, yeah? But it also includes what seems to be either kind of an attempt at science, we'll say, or a kind of alchemical pseudoscience that he's putting forward. On the back cover, it says this has survived as a cult book. To say that this is an early science fiction narrative wouldn't be enough to add that this is a fantastic story about an initiate's journey to the Earth's interior. All right. A compendium of scientific hypotheses that goes from geology to metaphysics, an illustration of the miseries and hopes of men. Right? It's a nice thick book, just over 400 pages of fascinating weirdness, and I love this. I love early weird, and this just definitely seems to be an example of the early weird. I feel like I remember this being on sort of the list of books that inspired Lovecraft, that kind of thing. Look at this. These illustrations are just tremendous. That's really cool. Boat just hanging over the edge there. Okay. Edidorpa. Edidorpa. I Have to Keep Looking by John Uri Lloyd. Is it a forgotten classic of the weird? It seems like it is. It's not been forgotten by me anyway, or now it's been rediscovered by me, and it is here. December continues. Oh, it's been a weird month. A weird book for a weird month. A dark and gloomy month. December 2024 book haul continues. Books received on December 23rd, 2024. From a LinkedIn post of all things. I'm on LinkedIn, I don't know why, but I saw somebody on LinkedIn recommending 3 books on writing that person, and I can't remember who the person was, said these seem to be books that people are missing. They're not really talking about, but he thought they were really super great. And they sounded super great to me. I put all 3 on my wish list, and then 2 of them I just thought, I'll just buy them. Because it is still the holiday season, and there are some, we talked about this, discounts going on at Amazon. Don't celebrate the holiday, but take advantage of those, discounts. So I bought these 2. Let's take a look at them. And this is the thing. That post said people aren't talking about these. People don't seem to know about these. And I wasn't talking about these. And I didn't know about these. And so now I do. And that's really exciting for me. Because that's how much of a nerd I am, I guess. I am a nerd for writing or whatever. The first one is draft number 4 by John McPhee on the writing process. All right. Interesting. For me, I've always said that if you ask 100 working, professional authors about their writing process, you'll get more than 100 different answers. It's just not a thing that, and I know there's all of that out there, right? Like, try Ernest Hemingway's writing process, try Jane Austen's writing process. Well, sure, right? And see what works there, But if you fail at Ernest Hemingway's process, that doesn't make you a failure at writing. Find your own process. I wonder if this book tells me to do that. But it says that draft number 4 is a masterclass in the writer's craft, which is good. In a series of playful, expertly wrought essays, John McPhee shares insights he has gathered over his career and refined while teaching at Princeton University. Oh, well, excuse me, Princeton University. So I'm interested in this, right? Short book, does not seem to be right away saying, I've cracked it, right at that. I'll refer you back to the Save the Cat video for how I feel about we have discovered the mathematical formula. We are not AIs. We are not being, programmed. Anyway, draft number 4 by John McPhee. Really interested in that. This goes on the big pile of books about writing, which I have. And, I'm like the old guy or whatever. Been doing this for a long time, writing and editing for a very long time. And I don't know everything. Right? I don't know everything. My brain is still developing just like everybody else's. It's a constant process of learning. Whatever it is that you're doing, certainly in the arts. Yeah. But even then, I think if you're in trades, right, there's new things being invented. Right? If you're a plumber, you have to still keep up on what's going on. If you're an auto mechanic, right, cars are changing pretty dramatically. So whatever you're doing, read, practice, think, learn, try, repeat, even as you get the gray, even as you get the bald, right? Always be learning. And so that's what I'm doing with these 2 books, the second of which is, this one looks like fun. I love the cover. Thrill Me, Essays on Fiction by Benjamin Percy. Look at that. Very pulpy looking thing. Thrill Me practices what it preaches. It's a craft book that is also a thrilling read. Tremendous. That's Karen Russell. Getting some good stuff over here. Library Journal, NPR, the New York Times Book Review. What's the sticker here for? I don't know. I got this from Amazon. It says new. It came in actually good shape from Grey Wolf Press. Again, not a big, fat, giant book. Fairly large type, so there's not, this isn't some sort of voluminous tome that we have to set aside a year to read. But this really just talks about stuff that genre authors really need to know, right? Designing suspense. These are just a couple of the chapters here. There will be blood, writing violence. I've written about a lot of this stuff myself too, right? So fascinated always looking for another take on that. I have not mastered anything. Nobody really masters anything when it comes to any creative endeavor. Oh, there's a boo-boo on here. Look at how distractible I am. Can we see this? Oh no, I just said it came to me from Amazon in actually good shape, but then there's a big mush here where it's got all mushed up. That was December 23. 2 books on the art and craft of writing. Yay! Quite possibly the last book in the December 2024 book haul. I don't know, right? So this came to me in the mail yesterday. That would have been December 29th of 2024. This is Flame and Crimson by Brian Murphy, A History of Sword and Sorcery. Dig it. Look, I mean, sword and sorcery fiction, Robert E. Howard in particular, thank you to Conan comic books that I read as a kid, was my introduction to fantasy. This is what fantasy feels like to me. It's what I love to read. It's a lot of what I've written, at least sort of sword and sorcery adjacent or inspired by sword and sorcery, elements of sword and sorcery into, other like sort of epic fantasy stuff like, or really high fantasy stuff like for the Forgotten Realms stuff that I've written. Who else but me would this book be written for, right? A history of the primary fantasy subgenre of sort of my experience as a fantasy fan. Flame and Crimson, A History of Sword and Sorcery from Pulp Heroes Press. There's a publishing company I should probably be looking at. What more is there to be said? The History of Sword and Sorcery, December 2024. If all of a sudden you see the sort of end screen and this just goes away, then that means this was the last book of the December 2024 book haul video, and what a great way to end it. If something squeezes in today, which is the 30th, or tomorrow, which is the 31st, well, okay, let's see. End screen elements. Are you here? Is this it? Oh. Well, no, there's more. So, had to go to the library, which is, of course, not a chore. On the 30th of December of 2024, I had some stuff to pick up, some stuff to return, etc. And then there's the book sale, which, I don't pass up. And lo and behold, they'd restocked a couple of things, and there were some treasures in there. What you're about to see is $6. Okay. How about this one? I actually remember this being a thing. Why didn't I buy this and read this when it first came out really 30 years ago in 1994? This is the Elric anthology, Tales of the White Wolf. These are other authors, authors other than Michael Moorcock, writing Elric. of course, the original Elric series by Moorcock is just one of my sort of foundational works of fantasy for me. And it's crazy that I didn't have this. I actually know a couple of the authors who are in here, right? People that I worked with in one capacity or another, as an editor at Wizards and TSR, like Richard Lee Byers for sure. And, but, and then in here are some, kind of authors that I kind of vaguely familiar with. And then, of course, right, Jody Lynn Nye, Neil Gaiman, etc. Tad Williams, Michael Moorcock himself adds a story and an introduction. Terrific, very nicely done. White Wolf really did this is a White Wolf game studio, right? Really did a terrific job with their books in general. I've read a bunch of their stuff, their books, and they just had, they brought the quality. They did a really terrific job. I kind of miss them out there as a publisher, yeah. So this is it. Tales of the White Wolf. Elric stories. What? Terrific. That is going into the giant to be read pile. Hopefully that comes up soon, because that's exciting for me. This one, a book I had never heard of, but I was just kind of flipping through and it looked really interesting. This is the thing about physical bookstores, and we'll call this as a sort of a mini version of a physical bookstore. You get to just sort of go like, what's that? Department of Speculation by Jenny Ophel. Now, of course, where the hell have I been? It's one of the 10 best books of the year, but says the New York Times Book Review. Who am I to argue? And that year was, what was that year? That was relatively recently, no? The lighting in here it's worse than it seems on the video 2014. It's a shorter book than it actually looks in terms of the thickness of the pages. I don't know why. It just all of a sudden was like, this is a book that I might find really interesting. I think I might throw this into the sort of soon and inevitably to be read pile. I'm just really curious about it. Department of Speculation. I'm speculating as to whether or not I'm going to really love that. And then this one, I saw a copy of this being talked about a lot, right? Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God. This is a book from 1937. Obviously, this is a rather much later edition of it. So this isn't like some kind of collectible thing or anything like that. It looks to be the 18th printing of the 2013 reissue from Harper Perennial. I'm going to kind of flip through it a little bit. Someone has definitely read this and underlined in pencil and left a few little notes in the margin, and that I like that. I like to sort of interact with, in that kind of very strange way, one-sided way, with the previous reader of another book. This is one of those sort of classics of American literature that is getting to be once again relevant because of the way this country has been relentlessly marching backward. Go ahead and get me started. And then last one, which will be, I think, the last book purchased in 2024 by Phil. And why not? Endurance. A Year in Space, A Lifetime of Discovery by Scott Kelly. This is one of those, like, why didn't I buy this like the second it came out, right? About my enduring fascination with, with spaceflight. And this looks like fascinating, right? I mean, I have been kind of a Scott Kelly fan. He just has a way of communicating the astronaut experience. And talk about a guy who has been there and done that. The book itself is in good condition, we'll say, right? It's not perfect, but it's otherwise, it's not all ripped up or anything like that. It looks like someone has read it, but I don't care. It is indeed the first edition, or so it says, right? Can we see it? Right here? Does it matter? Not really. got photographs in it. Of course. Endurance by Scott Kelly. Real life astronaut. Really spent a year on the space station. Wow. Alright, so this time, for real, the end screen stuff is going to pop up. And that will have been the December 2024 book haul from me, Phil, here at Fantasy Authors Handbook. Like, comment, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. And I will see you in the new year. Bye-bye.